Hello, Curious! Ed and Lorraine Warren were true paranormal icons, and their investigations inspired the films of the Conjuring and Annabelle series. And during their career, the couple worked on over 10,000 cases concerning hauntings, possessions, and other manifestations of actions of unforeseen forces. And it is them that the press and internet portals are most often writing about. But there's also a topic that's not mentioned so often, and that is the private life of the couple of demonologists, namely the fact that in the shadow of the fame is that Judy's daughter is grown up, about which we will tell you about in a moment in today's episode. So, what was the childhood of Ed and Lorraine's daughter like? And why as a young person could she not tell anyone about what her parents do? And did she grow up among the haunted items collected at the museum? And which of them frightened her the most? So stay with us until the end to find out what happened to the only child of the Warrens, and did she grow up following in the footsteps of her parents as an adult? But before we go any further, don't forget to click on the subscription button, turn on the notifications, and leave a thumbs up. Judy Spera, the only child of the most famous pair of paranormal researchers, and once said in an interview, and we quote here, "When I was in the 6th grade, I asked my father, what should I say when someone asks me, what do you do? And he replied, say that I'm a landscape painter." And Judy, while attending a Catholic school run by nuns, one day she actually heard this question from one of the sisters, and following her parents' instructions, she replied that her father was painting landscapes. And the nun, on the other hand, when she heard it, did not ask about anything more, but entrusted the girl with taking care of the plants in the classroom until the end of the school year. At the school that Judy attended, no one ever really found out that she was the daughter of the most famous demonologists in the world. Of course, telling one of the teachers that her father was an artist was far from the job that was actually like it was, but the Warrens realized that this was the only way to avoid the dramatic reactions of those schools, and Judy herself never shared this with any of the classmates or friends. Anyways, as she admitted, the stories of her parents' adventures terrified her so much that she never wanted to mention their investigations. If on the other hand you would like to learn more about them and hear about the details of the story of the Annabelle demon doll or the horror in Amityville, be sure to check out one of our earlier episodes titled The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. We will also tell you about why Ed and Lorraine have been accused of cheating many times, and you can learn about them a lot more by clicking on the link above. And coming back to today's topic, the Warren couple had a crazy working life. They traveled the world solving successive cases, and gave lectures at universities about their work, and wrote books and appeared on TV programs, and at the same time tried to keep their daughter away from it all. And when the girl was born in 1951, she very quickly came under the care of her grandmother and spent most of her childhood on the farm in Bridgeport. And this was the best solution considering that her parents were away frequently when their Connecticut home was usually empty. And in this way, the child also avoided contact with intrusive reporters and die-hard fans, and most of all, did not have to grow up surrounded by haunted objects at the famous Museum of Occultism. One of them frightened the girl the most, but before we tell you which one it was, we must also mention that Judy in one of the interviews mentioned that she lived with her grandparents also because of the fear she felt about being at her parents' house, and she noted that when she was young, the household made her so afraid that she was unable to fall asleep there and sit alone in the room. Interestingly enough, she did not realize for a long time that she was in a basement of a building, especially in a mysterious room which her parents forbade her to enter. And it wasn't until she was a little bit older that she found out that it was filled with formidable artifacts that her parents had brought back after almost every completed investigation. And Ed Warren cautioned his daughter against one item in particular, which to this day is considered the museum's most iconic demonic exhibit. And I'm talking about the Annabelle doll, which Judy could not even touch, and it was this haunted toy that aroused the greatest terror in the girl. These moments of her life also inspired the filming of the film Annabelle Comes Home, which was released in 2019. Before the premiere, Judy gave an interview in which she confessed that the doll scares her all the time. She noted that the famous Annabelle horrors created a completely different image of the toy. In the films, it is made of a porcelain and looks like piercingly for anyone who dares to approach it. And while the original Annabelle is actually a rag doll with red yarn hair and button eyes. But this innocent appearance is only appearances, and Judy herself has stated that the real Annabelle is much more terrifying than the grotesque screen version, and although it looks so innocent, it is still so bad. So for this reason, it was locked in a cabinet in the center of the Occult Museum, on which the Warrens had nailed a sign warning that no one should open the door under any circumstances. And unfortunately, that year the media reported that this prohibition had been broken, and that the doll apparently escaped from the basement of a home in Connecticut. The daughter of the Warrens was asked in one of the interviews if she had ever dreamed of a more normal and traditional life, where her parents did not spend most of their time searching for ghosts and casting out demons. But without thinking, she replied that she never wanted to, and although she spent a large portion of her childhood away from them, she also remembers a lot of fantastic moments when they finally got together. Though she couldn't really open up to many people about her parents' work, she eventually got in the way of one person whom she decided to tell everything. And that person was Judy Spera, a policeman she met at one of her father's and mother's lectures at a University of Connecticut. And when she told him that she came from a family of ghost hunters, he was not all that terrified by the fact, but more fascinated. And he was also not afraid of visiting the Museum of Occultism, where even Judy herself had never been before, and they became acquainted with them. Tony eventually became the husband of the Warrens' daughters, and it turned out that in many ways he took over Ed and Lorraine's institution of the demonology business. He even worked with them for several years, and when their careers came to an end, he turned to the paranormal research himself. His knowledge turned out to be very useful during the making of the films of the Conjuring universe, and he worked as a consultant on the set. After the death of the Warrens, he and his wife also became the owners of the family museum, where he guides tourists and horror fans to this day. Judy, on the other hand, chose not to follow in her parents' footsteps, although she admits that she inherited her mother's ability to see clairvoyance or to contact the dead. She never wanted to develop these skills, and she has no interest in ghosts and casting of demons. And unlike her parents, she leads a very quiet life. At the same time, she cares about their legacy and does not mind that if her children or grandchildren should engage in paranormal activities in the future and follow in the footsteps of their late grandparents. So curious, did you know about the daughter of the most famous pair of demonologists? Does the Annabelle doll scare you too, or would you like to see it with your own eyes anyways? What do you think of the horror movies based on the lives of Ed and Lorraine Warren? Have you seen the new movie, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It? Be sure to let us know in the comments, and don't forget about the subscription button, turning on the notifications, and leaving a thumbs up. And be sure to come back and check out another episode with the wow effect. See you guys next time!